everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming a very exciting tagged video. I'm going to be filming the Do I Have That Book challenge. I've seen this video before and I just saw Emma Books and Reagan recently just posted a version of it and it got me really wanting to do it. This video was originally made by Keeping Tabs and I'll leave a link to her channel and the original video down below, but without further ado, there are 20 questions that I have to try and get through. I'm going to try and time it and see how fast I can do this. But yeah, I'm very excited and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Okay, gonna go in 3, 2, 1. Okay, the first one is, do I have a book with deckled edges? And I do. I know exactly which one I do. Never mind, I don't know, but actually, yes. Okay, I've got 3 Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake and deckled edges. Okay. Do I have a book with 3 or more people on the cover? Yes, I do. I have The Burning Maze, Trials of Apollo by Rick Riordan. Okay, do I have a book that's based on another fictional story? I do. I'm going to take this as being a retelling, so I'm going to go to my retelling shelf, and I'm going to pick Sea Witch by Sarah Henning. It's a retelling of Ursula's origin story from Little Mermaid, so very good book, by the way. 4, do I have a book with a title that is 10 letters long exactly? Yes, 9, 10. Okay, I've got Reflection by Elizabeth Lim, which is another retelling, actually. It's a retelling of Mulan. Do I have a title that starts and ends with the same letter? I don't know. Where do I think I should start? Oh, geez, I don't know. Yes, okay. I've got Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. They both start and ends with S. Okay. Do I have a mass market paperback? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Here is Deception Point by Dan Brown. Do I have a book written by an author using a pen name? I do. I have The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. These books are fantastic, by the way. If you like thrillers, read it. Do I have a book with character's name in the title? Yes, I do. Of course I do. I'm going to try not to go with Harry Potter. Okay, I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor because the main character's name is Laszlo Strange, so it works. Do I have a book with 2 maps in it? Now, this might be hard. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Do I have one with 2 maps? Oh, I think I do. Does Earthsea have 2 maps? No! Okay, damn it. This one's hard. Yes, okay, I found one. So this is Deathcaster by Cinda Williams-Strima, and it's got a map of the 7 realms, and then it's got a second map, come on, of the Northern Islands. Okay, we're good. Got one. Okay, do I have a book that was turned into a TV show? I do. Oh, I'm gonna go with these. This is Speaking in Bones by Kathy Reichs. These are the books that were turned into the Bones TV show. Do I have a book that was written by someone who's famous for something else? I genuinely don't know. I don't have very many. Oh, yes, I do. Okay. I'm going to go with the Hamilton the Revolution, which was written by Lin-Manuel Miranda and Jeremy McCarthy. Both of them are composers, and they made Hamilton, which was brilliant. Do I have a book with a clock on the cover? I'm sure I do. This book should have a clock on the cover based on the title. And it does. This is The Timekeeper by Mitch Albom, which is one of my favorite books ever. It's written by the man who wrote 5 People You Meet in Heaven. Do I have a poetry book? I do. Let us go with... Okay. I'm going to go with The Door by Margaret Atwood. Do I have a book with an award stamp on it? I also am pretty positive that I do. Yes. Okay. This is 15 Dogs by Andre Alexis. It won the Scotiabank Giller Prize in Canada. It won the Writers' Trust of Canada Award and the Canada Reads 2017 selection. Do I have a book written by an author with the same initials as me? I doubt it. My initials are EF. Let's take a look. I highly doubt this. Okay, it doesn't look like I have one, so I'm not going to get a point for that, I guess. That sucks. Do I have a book of short stories? Yes, I do. Let's go with More Margaret Atwood. I'm gonna go with The Stone Mattress, 9 Wicked Tales by Margaret Atwood. Okay, do I have a book that has between 500 and 510 pages? Let's take a look. Oh, this one's gonna be hard. I have really bad perspective, apparently. Oh shit, oh shit. Damn it! 511. Okay. Come on, King of Scars, you just let me down. God damn it, 512! Oh my goodness. This is so hard. Okay guys, I'm gonna call it. I don't think I have one that's between 500 and 510 pages. I just spent like 5 minutes looking for it and I can't see it. Book that's been turned into a movie. Okay, I got one of those. This one. I'm gonna go with The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This is the movie tie-in edition. It just came out like last month. Do I have a graphic novel? I have many. Which one am I gonna pick? I'm gonna pick this one. I'm gonna go with Essex County by Jeff Lemire, the collected 3 books together. This is beautiful. And do I have a book written by 2 or more authors? I do. I've had this one waiting. Illuminae by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. Okay, 17 minutes and 12 seconds. I did this. I wasted a lot of time looking for 2 books that I did not have. But without further ado, I'm going to pull up my chair and we're going to go through the books that I just picked out. Okay, without further ado, let's go through all of the books. Okay, the first prompt was to find a book with deckled edges. I'm going to go with 3 Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake. As you can see, it's got this. It is a YA fantasy that I thought was really great. It was pretty dark. It's about 3 sisters who are heirs to this island called Fenburn. They're triplets, and each of them has a different set of magic, and they have to compete and kill the other 2 sisters. Whoever remains on top gets to be queen. Next up was to pick a book with 3 or more people on the cover, and I went with The Trials of Apollo, Book 3, The Burning Maze by Rick Riordan. It's got the 3 characters on the front here. I thought this was apt since it's Reading Riordan month this month. The book club starts, and this is one of the Rick Riordan books, so yay. Next up was to pick a book based off of another fictional story, so I took that to mean a retelling or something based off of another book. So I went with Sea Witch by Sarah Henning. This is a prequel to The Little Mermaid with a backstory for Ursula, and I thought it was fantastic. I think I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was a great, great story and highly recommended if you're a fan of The Little Mermaid. Next up was to pick a book with a title that's 10 letters long. This I picked was Reflection by Elizabeth Lim. It's a Mulan retelling, and I thought it was fantastic. It's where Mulan has to go down into the underworld to save Shang because in this version, he died at the battle with the Huns, so very good book. Next up was to pick a book where the title started and ended with the same letter, and I picked 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Everyone loves it for good reason. Great story. If you haven't read it yet, read it. Next up was to pick a mass market paperback, and I chose Deception Point by Dan Brown. This is one of his earlier books. I think it was written back in like the 90s or something. Oh, 2001. I was close. This is a fantastic story. It's a mystery thriller again, or more of a mystery. Different than his Robert Langdon like Da Vinci Code books, but just as good in my opinion. I love this book. I read it a couple summers ago and I highly recommend it. Next up was to pick a book that was written by an author using a pen name, and I chose The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. These are her mystery thriller, police, crime type books. A lot of adjectives there. But these books are fantastic. I need to read the latest one that's out, which is Lethal White, the 4th one. But it follows a PI named Cormoran Strike as he goes through the motions of solving various crimes in London, and it is fantastic. These books are so dark but so full of mystery. Like, I didn't see anything coming, and they were really great reads. Next up was to pick a book with a character's name in the title. I went with Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor because the main character's name is Laszlo Strange. This book is one of my favorite books of all time. It tells the story of Laszlo Strange, who is a scholar / junior librarian who is obsessed with a fictional city called Weep. It's not actually the city's name, but it's what people refer to it because the name has been long forgotten, but he's an expert on Weep. And one day a convoy shows up from Weep, and he goes on this massive adventure to try and save the city, and it was fantastic. It gave me huge Atlantis vibes, which Atlantis is one of my favorite movies when I was so little, like the Disney version. So good. Next up was to pick a book with 2 maps in it, and I chose Deathcaster by Cinda Williams-Chima. It's got a map of the 7 realms here, and then a second map of the Northern Islands. Next up was to pick a book that was turned into a TV show, and I chose one of the Kathy Reich's Bones books. This one is Speaking in Bones. I think it's the most recent one that's out, actually. It's the most recent one that I've read. And these books are great, and they are the inspiration for the Fox TV show Bones, which is one of my favorite book shows of all time. They follow a main character named Temperance Brennan, who is a doctor of forensic anthropology, who works with various police departments in order to solve crimes in which the remains are too desecrated or too old, basically, skeletal remains, that kind of thing, for a regular autopsy. And she is involved in the detective process as well. These are fantastic books. I love it because Kathy Reichs is actually a forensic anthropologist, so the science is quite sound in it. I think, from what I can hear, the science is quite sound. But she goes into a lot of detail about it, which I think is really cool. Next up was to pick a book that was written by someone who's famous for something else, and I chose Hamilton the Revolution, written by Lin-Manuel Miranda and Jeremy McCarter. Lin-Manuel Miranda is a composer and a lyricist and a actor, musician. He is one of the people responsible for creating Hamilton. It was his brainchild, and it is my favorite thing in the planet right now. And so I had to use this. I think it actually is the only book on my shelf that fits this prompt, but either way, I'm very happy I get to display this because it's my baby. Next up was to pick a book with a clock on the cover, and I chose The Timekeeper by Mitch Albom. It follows Father Time, the man who created the very first clock. He is punished by God for trying to measure God's greatest gift, which is time. And after living through hundreds of years in this cave, just listening to people begging for more time, he's finally released and given a task in order to teach two humans the true meaning of time. I love this book so much. I went to the book signing for this, actually. It was my one and only book signing I've ever been to when I was like 17, because my best friend, this is one of her favorite authors of all time. He wrote another book called The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, which is phenomenal, a great book, really heart-wrenching. They're little small books, but they are just so good. This book was fantastic if you're interested in it. It's very good. Hello you guys, this is me a few weeks after filming this video, sorry about that. I was just editing it and I realized that the end bit actually cut off. It didn't finish filming, so I'm just gonna finish up wrapping up the books that I picked for this tag video. Next up, number 13, was to pick a poetry book. My dad's also redoing the back deck, so if you guys can hear some drilling sounds and stuff like that, I'm sorry, but this is the only time I have to do this, so bear with me. I actually chose The Door by Margaret Atwood. So I read this for my Canadian women's writing class, and we read a few poems from it. I loved it so much. I thought it was really great. They're all like quite short little poems and stuff like that, so if you're interested in some poetry by Margaret Atwood, if you're a Margaret Atwood fan, I'd highly recommend it. They're dark, they're really interesting, very like lucid type things, like they're very good. Next up was to pick a book with an award stamp on it, and I chose 15 Dogs by Andre Alexis. This is another Canadian book. This book won the Scotiabank Giller Prize, which is one of the like biggest book literary prizes in Canada. And it also was the Writers' Trust of Canada winner, and was the 2017 selection for Canada Reads by CBC. This book was fantastic. This book tells the story of the two Greek gods, Apollo and Hermes, who are sitting in this bar in Toronto, I think. Yep. And they're kind of just talking about humanity, and Hermes starts to wonder what would happen if they gave dogs human consciousness. And Apollo bets 1 year's worth of servitude that they would be just as, if not more, unhappy than humanity if they were given human consciousness. And it ends up, they go to a little vet clinic nearby, and they give the 15 dogs that are staying overnight in the kennel human consciousness and human intelligence. And then they just watch them over the next coming months, years, decades, and tries to decide whether or not any of them were able to find happiness, which was their main goal, was to see if they would be able to find true happiness if they were given human consciousness. This was a beautiful book. It was a wonderful take on like humanity and what it means to be human, what it means to be happy, and also the way we treat our animals. Actually, I thought it was a really great book. One of the dogs becomes a poet, and they're my favorite like ever. His name was Prince. He was like a little mutt, and it's This is like one of the quotes that I had highlighted because I love this book so much. Again, I read it for school. I read it for a Canadian lit class again as well. But it says, Prince was the only one who entirely embraced the change in consciousness. It was as if he'd discovered a new way of seeing, an angle that made all he had ever known strange and wonderful. It was a great book. I'd highly recommend it. It was beautiful to read. Next up was to pick a book written by an author with the same initials as you, and unfortunately I was unable to find a book that had the same initials as me. My initials are EF, and I couldn't find one. I'm sorry. Next up was to pick a book of short stories. For this I chose another Margaret Atwood's collection, and I chose The Stone Mattress. This I read again for school. I read it for my literary fiction class actually. And we used the stories to kind of analyze different literary theorists and philosophers and stuff like that, and analyze their ideas. It was like a really great way to read this, I think. But yeah, again, they're really dark, really twisted, but so interesting. I love the like range of characters that she wrote. A few of the stories are kind of loosely connected, which I thought was fun, and like fun little Easter eggs and stuff like that, but this was a great collection if you're interested in short stories and you like Margaret Atwood. Again, I'd recommend it highly. Next up was to pick a book that was between 500 and 510 pages, and also unfortunately I couldn't find one. I spent so long looking for one and I just gave up. It was just bad. I couldn't find one. I'm sorry. Next up was to pick a book that was turned into a movie. I chose a recent read of mine and a recent collection of mine, and that is The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This is actually the movie tie-in edition, so it fits. This book is gorgeous. It is the first contemporary I've read in a long time that I actually really enjoyed. It tells the story of Daniel and Natasha, who meet one day unexpectedly on the streets of New York City, and Daniel actually bets Natasha, who doesn't believe in love, that he could make her fall in love with him in one day. But little does he know that Natasha is actually being deported with her family the next day, so they only have that one day. This book was beautiful. I read it in one go. I just like sped through it, and it was just absolutely beautiful. I thought it was so funny. I thought it was so heartbreaking. It made me cry, and I absolutely adored it. If you're a contemporary fan and you haven't read this, I'd highly recommend it. If you're not into contemporary, I'd still highly recommend it. I'm not very into contemporary, but I really liked it. Next up was to choose a graphic novel. I chose another Canadian book for this one. I'm just like repping Canada in this tag, which makes me happy. But I actually chose The Complete Essex County by Jeff Lemire. This was a graphic novel that was written and set in the like fictional town of Essex County. It was like based off of a town in southern Ontario, like a really rural farm town. And it just tells the story of one family through different generations. As they're growing up in this rural area. It tells the story of their like love and appreciation for hockey, and how much hockey has an influence on Canadian culture, which I thought was really cool. And the art style was just gorgeous. It's all black and white. There's absolutely no color. But like some of the illustrations are just so beautiful. Like they're just so sketchy and like raw, and you can really tell like different emotion and stuff like that. I thought like, look at that. It was just gorgeous. But I don't know, I absolutely adored it. Again, it's all tabbed up because I read it for school again. I read it for my graphic novels class, but I thought it was like wonderful. And if you're into graphic novels, I'd highly recommend this actually. And lastly, the final book was to choose one that was written by 2 or more authors. For this challenge, I chose Illuminate by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I read this just back in December for the first time, and I need to get the 2 sequels because I absolutely adored it. It's a mixed media science fiction novel that it tells the story of Ezra and Katie. Like 2 corporations are kind of fighting over the same town or same little planet, and the people living on it get caught up in the mix, and they end up on these space stations. But a plague is quickly spreading on one of them, and the 2 kids are separated on different stations, and they have to try and figure out what's going on. And I absolutely adored it. Again, I read it in pretty much one go. It was just phenomenal. And if you're into science fiction or like you want a really good fast-paced read, I'd highly recommend this. I'm really sucking with this video, but again, sorry about that. I forgot to tag people. I'm going to tag Soleil at Little Reader's Corner, Maddie at Princess of Paperback, Joe at Average Joe Reads, Boston at Boston Reads Books, and Jess over at Tundra Tomes. I'm going to tag those guys specifically, but anybody who wants to do this tag, obviously feel free. I wasn't tagged, so Love that. That is it for my Do I Have This book tag. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry it's kind of late. But if you did enjoy it, please give this video a thumbs up because it really supports my channel and helps to grow this little community. If you've read any of these books, let me know down in the comments below, or if you think you guys could have done it quicker, let me know. I know you probably could have because I did this very slow. Again, if you have any thoughts on these books, just let me know down in the comments below, or if you guys have like other books that you thought you saw on my shelf that would fit, also let me know because that'd be fun. If you're new here, please subscribe. I put out new reading vlogs every Monday and new bookish videos every Friday. Thank you guys for being patient on this. I had a really rough week sickness-wise, and that's why I didn't post it all last week, but I am back and hopefully better than ever. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye-bye.